Any bifurcations?
Mr. Chair, I need to bifurcate 3B.
3B, which is your own item. All right. And any other bifurcations? No? All right. A motion
Move
to.
it.
All right. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins moves the remainder of the items, seconded by Commissioner Orbis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. All right. No, we already set the agenda. Yeah, no, that's it. So all the items are approved except for 3B. All right, Commissioner Orbis, you're recognized on 3B.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In looking at this, and as we prepare for a difficult budget year again, I know that it's important to address cost savings. And so I believe our attorneys have a motion on this item on 3B. Thank you.
My understanding of the motion is that the motion is to reject the recommendation to award the new contract to the vendor but instead to extend the current contract for 30 days?
Yes.
Is that the only change here, or?
That's the only change for now, yeah.
Okay, is, my only question, Commissioner, is, and I think I'd be okay with that. My only question is 30 days sufficient time? And I don't know if the administration would answer, if you have had discussions already with the administration. I want to make sure that we're just not back here in 30 days. I don't know, 60 days, 90 days. Again, I'm supportive of whatever the right amount of time is. Just want to make sure that we're not like relitigating this just for an extension of time.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'll let the administration answer.
Yeah, Jimmy Morales, the chair. The question, the motion that has been made now is to reject the proposal and extend the current contract for 30 days. The question is, when is, is that enough time? What is the deadline? When is it expiring, et cetera?
Through the chair, Namita Opal. The contract is expiring October 31st, and I'm not sure what the plan is for 30 days. I do have to ask the company if they're willing to extend, and that's what I was talking to them.
Can you please talk to them and let us know, potentially?
Yes.
And then separately, I guess my question is, Commissioner Orbis, what is your idea? Like, what is the plan here as far as why are we extending 30 days for, so that, what's kind of the plan?
Yeah, so
And it might be happening still, it might be in the making, but
yeah, so I think this contract is a service that can be classified for a low bid procurement, and ideally, we would want to see if anybody else who bid can bid lower, because in the research we identified that we can save about $3 million. So we want to see if it's able to achieve that. If we're able to achieve that, that's why we're asking for the extension. Otherwise, it would be a deferral today.
got it. So it's not necessarily a rejection of the bids. Maybe legally the attorneys have suggested we have to, but it's not necessarily rejecting the bids. It's trying to get like a best and final offer type of deal, or?
Yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do, but we're trying to make sure that we're able to do that everybody qualifies, so that, yes.
Makes sense.
Can I just add something, Chair?
Yes, Namda, of course.
So to get clarity on it, what the intent here is to do a BAFA between the companies that participated in the RFP process?
That's what.
Or do you
Yes.
want us to go back out?
No,
to
just the
world?
companies that, I think there's only 2 that qualified, correct?
Well, there were 3 that were evaluated, 5 that gave us
The top
proposals.
2.
Qualified was 3.
I don't want to use the word qualified. So we put out the RFP for these services. We got proposals from 5 companies. 2 were deemed non-responsive. So 3 were evaluated. The selection committee rated and ranked Beach Raker #1 and SFM #2. SFM is a great company. We do a lot of business with them, but they are a janitorial company. They haven't done this work anywhere in Florida. So that's why selection committee scored them the way they scored.
Partnering with any company on doing this type of work? I mean, when companies don't have the experience themselves, they do joint.
They're partnering with Ashbrit, but that's a debris removal company.
That's a
That
nationally
it's not removal of sargassum. Those are different things. Debris removal, janitorial is not same as sargassum removal.
I think I'm going to recognize everybody. I'm going to start with members of the committee, and then I'm going to move to attendees of the committee. I'm. That's why I will recognize you too. But when you say Ashbridge to me, and obviously I got briefed on this before, I like the idea of an extension to kind of dive into this a little bit further. But when you mentioned Ashbridge, and that's why I asked if there was a joint venture, because that's what I thought. Is I don't know that they specialize in sargassum, but they're a nationally recognized company that isn't going to allow themselves or any other partners to fail, and certainly not one of their largest counties in the state of Florida. I'd venture to say that they either do this elsewhere or they'll figure it out. But I'm not an expert, nor do I work there, or do I know how they operate. So I'll circle back to myself in a bit. But Commissioner Gilbert.
Yeah, so I think I had some initial confusion about when the attorney read the motion. The motion didn't necessarily make sense. So what we're doing right now, there's a motion to extend the contract for 30 days, period. That's it. Or is there a motion right now to direct the administration to do a BAFO and in the interim extend the contract for 30 days?
No, may I clarify, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
The contract expires October 31st, so we need an extension so that we can
Do the
background-
BAFO.
Right, correct.
So
Find out
do
more
we want
information.
to direct them to extend right now and do the BAFO? So that way, because what will happen is if we just do the extension now and we don't do the direction to do the BAFO right now, they'll come back in 30 days and we'll have to direct them in 30 days to do the BAFO.
I think
So we need another 30 days. So that's the first observation. So we need to probably flesh that out in the committee with the administration. The other thing is this. I tend to agree with the chairman that if they bid and we found them responsive and responsible and there's a gap in the actual cost for the services, the process of finding someone responsive and responsible, what you're saying is that they can do the work. That's the baseline question that you're answering. I mean, if you're going to tell me that they can't do the work, but you found them responsive and responsible, they're responsive and responsible bidder, but they can't do the work. So I don't. That's a question. Tanamna, please. I'm
Yes.
interested.
Thank you, Commissioner. Great question, actually. So responsiveness is obviously determined by the county attorney and based on certain legal things. Let's say they didn't give us pricing. And so there were two companies that were deemed non-responsive based on that for this RFP. So there were no responsiveness, the legal issues found, so they were evaluated. Now, as a part of the evaluation, their experiences looked at, what kind of equipment, people, what they have done, all of that was looked at. When the rankings come back from the selection committee, we only do the responsibility review for the top ranked firm. We don't do it for number 2, number 3, unless we're going into a contract with them. So based on their proposal, you are asking me
hold on.
for responsibility.
Time out for a second.
Yes.
So then what you're saying is, what you're incredibly saying is, you only determine whether the first bidder is responsible. So you're never prepared for this board to deviate from your recommendation? Because we have the option of going with number 2. We have the option of going with any bidder that's responsible. Like, so if we said right now, hey, you know what? I appreciate this, but there is a number 1, and we're looking at the rankings, and I think we got to go with number 2, and this is why. And we vote and we go with number 2. And you say, well, we don't know whether they're responsible or not, but you didn't prepare for that contingency. They're ranked number 2. I don't know why you would only prepare for the people that you're recommending. That's presumptive and arrogant.
It's not that.
And it's not you, it's the system, but Jimmy, that has to absolutely stop.
I agree. That is going. We have to change that because you do have the right to do that.
Yeah.
Now that's been the practice. I take it, but if the direction is to do that differently, we'll do that differently.
But there's another
Top 3 should
3.
definitely be fully
Let's do
qualified.
responsibility. Let's just make sure if the board just, I don't know, decides to exercise our legislative authority and discretion and actually pick somebody you don't recommend, let's actually just make sure the top 3 are responsible. Let's do a responsibility. If there's only 2, then that that are recommended, okay, two, but you can't just do the people you're recommending. That's clearly not
Just one
something
thing,
acceptable.
if I could, Mr. Chair. Remember, this was an RFP and not a bid. That's why, normally in an RFP, you don't, price is not the determinative factor. It's a factor, and that's why there's all the other things you look at, experience and whatnot. And I would think that as part of that review, you are comparing the companies as to responsibility.
Correct.
But it's not a bid in the sense that you would do a BAFO, and I don't know if legally, and I ask the attorneys, because I know we've seen this in other contexts, can you just convert an RFP to a BAFO legally? Just
Well, hold on, before the attorney answers, actually, when you're in an RFP, when you do the evaluation, you're not doing it comparing them on responsibility. You're doing it based on qualifications. So so once you have responsibility is the mid-level, they can do the job. And are they a responsible bidder? Okay. So everybody who comes before us that we can have an option to choose should have already been determined the responsible bidder. Otherwise, we're put in a position where we could be choosing someone who is not responsible. And so that is, we can look at their qualifications. You all can look at their qualifications, but the minimum understanding of a responsible bidder needs to be established for people who are options for us.
So, Chair, responsibility review, again, to your point, it goes back to whether they have the capacity and capability to do the work. So something like this, part of it is okay, their experience factors in. Like equipment, they have zero equipment today. In their proposal, it's very clear, they mention it in their proposal, they do not have the equipment, they will buy the equipment. So for me, that's a responsibility factor also. That goes into the analysis. That's what
So
selection committee looked
you're
at.
telling me that everybody who bids that we go with, they always have the equipment before they actually, is that
No,
true?
no.
I know it's not true.
But
So that
people-
can't be.
Terrible example. I
That
think I see
was
what
a
you're saying,
horrible
but that's
example,
yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
I get what you're saying. I think that one example may have not been the best, but I do see what you're saying. In general, bad example because I don't, they're not building a bridge. And I'm sure that Commissioner Regalado right now is going to tell me how complex it is to remove sargassum and how environmentally challenging it can be and how the bugs inside. I'm sure she's about to go down this path, but we're not building a bridge. We're picking up seaweed that is at the beach. And no, you see, I hear the no. So I am going to recognize. Do you still have the floor, or?
I have the floor, and just as a member of the committee, could we just give her a time limit? Because she ain't even on the committee. She ain't even on the committee.
I'm gonna recognize her. She's been here, Commissioner Regalado.
Thank you. And just really quickly, there's 3 districts that deal with sargassum, mine, Higgins, and Steinberg. And it comes in waves. There's some years where we have a tremendous amount of sargassum, and some years where we have very little. 3 years ago, we started a 2-year process dealing with sargassum because we had so much of it. And to the members of the committee, the only thing you can compare sargassum to is sludge, because it is that regulated. It has metals, it has heavy metals. As it moves through the ocean, it actually collects arsenic and other heavy metals. And the state is constantly changing the laws. So 3 years ago, Beach Raker was doing it, and they actually lost their license because they were putting it in landfills in Broward. And they were not allowed to do that in Broward. So there was a bunch of changes. We were trying to find a cheaper way to do it. And it was very difficult because of all the regulations. And similar to sludge, it is full of water. It is not dried before it is moved. So the number that you see here can grow exponentially. It can be doubled or tripled depending on how and where you move it. So similar to sludge, this thing can go sideways at any moment, and the regs are always changing. So while I understand that garbage is garbage, this one is particularly dangerous. And what happens is, if we don't have anywhere to put it, we have to put it on our facilities and just leave it there to rot, which is what happened to us last time. We had to put it in piles at water and sewer, and we have to put it in parks, and then it rots and it smells like dead people. So I would caution you to get experimental with sargassum. The only other thing that I will say to Commissioner Orbis's point, I did bring an item that this board passed to have the Department of Water and Sewer work with solid waste. And I had mentioned also parks, so that together they can look at all of their contracts and see who could do it better and who could do it cheaper. So since water and sewer, for example, moves sludge, they actually have a better expertise to make a recommendation about moving sargassum, because they are very similar in terms of toxicity and weight. So just something to consider. There is something already out there that is looking at finding parks the ability to move within solid waste and water and sewer to do these things better. But I will tell you, Beach Raker is best in class. They're the ones that move sargassum. And it's not, if you want to give somebody the opportunity to move sargassum, I would just tell you, give them a small amount of it and see if they can do it. Don't give them the entire contract, because they can promise whatever they want at the BAFO. They've never done it. And it can come back and cost 3 times as much. So if you want to break it up and say that they move a certain tonnage of it and give them 6 months or a year, I would love to have more people moving sargassum. Yay! But I'm not going to be held hostage by it, because this impacts my district. Because if this gets tied up, then mine gets tied up. And this stuff comes, like, all of a sudden, you'll have so much of it that somebody has to come and pick up like 3 times what they picked up last month, because it's not a predictable waste stream. So that's the only thing that I would request as a commission that has to call people about sargassum. Thank you.
Understood. And I figured you were going to get into that. Thank you. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Commissioner Milian Orbis's point. When we have 2 top-ranking bidders on a project and $3 million difference between the 2 of them, obviously we're going to want to achieve and find savings, and I'm always going to be supportive of that. The concern that I have is change orders. And so to Commissioner Milian Orbis, I'm going to support the direction that you're going in. But I am going to, and we did this recently, I think it was just at our last hearing where we had a similar type of discussion. I don't know what the parameters or the guardrails are that we can place on a situation like this. But I would be extremely, extremely disheartened if we were to go in an opposite direction and at the end of the contract term find out that it cost exactly the same or more due to change orders, lack of experience, lack of sufficient equipment, et cetera. And the mention of the purchase of the equipment, I think it's important to note that's obviously not at our expense, correct? That would obviously be at the expense of the vendor deciding to buy the equipment to service the contract. That's not something that we would bear. Okay. Those are the only comments and questions that I have at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. So does the attorney have to clarify the motion or amendment to not just extend, but also enter into a BAFO with qualifications?
Yeah, so I would ask the attorneys, to Commissioner Cohen-Higgins' comments, can we add some parameters in what we're asking to do? And if we can extend it to 90 days, include the BAFO, but come back to the commission within 30 days and let us know.
Yeah, and I think, I do think, I like to simplify things, and I realize that garbage is garbage, and seaweed is seaweed, and sargassum is sargassum. But I do understand Commissioner Regalado's point and Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. We certainly don't want this to cost us more, and we want to make sure it gets done right. I just say, Director Namida, I say that the example that was used was just a poor one in the sense of, like, they may not own the equipment today, but they may have it ready to go. That's not what worries me. What worries me more is that they can do the job, that they have the proper permitting, that they have the proper experience, that they could get it done for what they're offering. Maybe we want to explore in the BAFO when it comes back to us, a 50-50. There's lots of options. But we'd be remiss, or we'd be negligent to not explore cost savings coming off of a $400+ million. I know we changed the word from deficit to gap, but shortfall of sorts.
Yeah.
And if we don't, and it didn't end there. Just because we balanced the budget doesn't mean we stop looking for savings, because we'll be here next year if we don't continue this throughout the year. So.
Right.
I I do thank you and appreciate you bringing this up. Commissioner Gilbert.
I wanted
Thank
to
you, Mr. Chairman. And I would just, it's just a note to the administration, I guess to my colleagues also. The baseline logic that the number 2 bidder is inexperienced and the number 1 bidder is someone who is experienced, who we're used to working with, always locks us in to people who we do business with. And so we never become an actual source of an opportunity for people. And we see it all the time with those legacy systems that we have. We keep going back to them. So we have something coming up with AT&T because they built out everything, and now we're told we have to be with AT&T because they're the legacy and they're the only people who can do it. Well, these people do sarcasm and they do it for us, and you know what? These other people aren't experienced. At some point, you have to make a determination that the capacity exists for them to do the job and give the opportunity. People feel all the time we come in and we fix it, but otherwise we're going to be stuck. We're held hostage to their prices. We're going to be held hostage to their prices. And we're seeing that across a wide range of procurements. Our desire to stay with people we know can do the job, who we've been with for a long time, holds us hostage. And so I don't know that it'll be the case in this. I'm interested in seeing the results, but be mindful of that as kind of a undertone of your rationale when you're doing evaluations, because that actually is a built-in systemic bias towards the people who already have the work, and it's inappropriate.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to add that, I'm not, if you recognize me, I'm not diminishing that sargassum is a serious issue and affects the beaches, in Miami-Dade County. I understand that it's a specialized issue, but I think Commissioner Gilbert says, and it's true, every time we have a meeting, we have a budget meeting. So we have to make decisions every time we meet here, right? And if we see an opportunity where we can achieve millions of dollars in savings, we should explore that, and the collection of sargassum is there's regulated by DERM and by the state. So there's rules around this, right? We're not making it up as we go. So I think that we should definitely explore this.
All right. Commissioner Regalado.
Yeah, and listen, the only thing that I would say is just again, what happened with the sludge, just be prepared. If they can't pick up the sargassum, there has to be another contract to pick up the sargassum. So if you want to give someone who's never picked up sargassum the opportunity to pick up sargassum, just keep another contract ready so that if they can't fulfill their obligation, we have an option. Because if you think you're paying a lot now, if we grant this to someone who has not picked up the sargassum and they fail, or they give us a change order that's 3 times as much, and then we go to Beach Raker, similar to the sludge, we will pay 3 to 4 times because it will be an emergency contract and they will triple their fee. I'm all about giving people an opportunity, Commissioner Gilbert. That's why I'm saying if you want to give them a pilot, let's see if they can move sargassum. My understanding was that this county said, go move it for a city, and if it works, call us. They could move sargassum for Key Biscayne. They could move sargassum for Aventura. They could go to a small city and prove the concept. They decided to come and play with the big fish, and that's fine. I'm just saying, I don't want to play 4 times as much, because when I got to pick up sargassum, we got to pick up sargassum. So if you want to give them an opportunity, fantastic. Give them a small piece of this and let them prove their concept and let them prove their price point, because they've never picked it up.
I think that's what we said. And I agree. We can't. This can't come back to haunt us, and we've seen it before. Actually, I think I may have called it out in one of the last meetings where we saw this, and we all voted for it. When this has happened before, we've all voted for it. Each and every one of us has voted and has come back to haunt us. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Commissioner Regalado brings up some good points, but I'm hoping that someone from the more cost-efficient bid is present, because I'd now like to ask them questions about their capabilities if they're present. Thank you. Please approach. Yeah, I mean, if the.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure you're listening very closely to the conversation, and as our colleagues always do, very excellent points are being raised. And so now the questions that are being posed, you're the only person, presumably as a representative of SFM, that can answer those questions. So speak to us, please, about your ability to not only pick up the sargassum, but to dispose of it. And if you can confirm that you are able to perform that service in full for the dollar amount that is contracted before us, not contracted because there's not a contract, the number that has been bid by your company.
Right. Good afternoon. My name is Christian Infante. I'm the president and owner of SFM Services. And just to clear up, I heard earlier that we're just a janitorial company. We also have a large landscape division with 4 certified ISA arborists on staff as well. Debris, whether it, no, we have not picked up sargassum. Your incumbent has had this contract for at least, I don't know, 8 years or so. The way the commissioner said it, you know, it's kind of, you're almost held hostage by the incumbent because no other contractors are given the opportunity. Debris hauling, during Hurricane Irma, for Miami-Dade County, we picked up debris, over 1 million cubic yards. As the chairman mentioned, Ashbrit, our partner, is all over the country. They've hundreds and hundreds of millions of cubic yards. In an emergency, in a hurricane, where, as all of us know, is a hectic time. This is picking up sargassum in a maintenance setting. So it's a set schedule, 7 days a week. You know, we studied the RFP documents very closely, the equipment owned by the incumbent, what's out there on the industry. We did our research. We already have commitments with the equipment providers to purchase the equipment. We're financially strong enough to purchase the equipment, and we stand behind our number given to the county.
Thank you for that. My question is a little bit more narrow. I just wanted you to confirm that you're able to pick up and dispose of the sargassum for the price that you bid for this project.
The short answer is yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course. And I would, what's the change order situation here as far as like the way that this was bid, and would that be in the contract portion of it? Like, is this price, does this depend on the weight of the sargassum? Like, how do we, is it a per pound, you know, per cubic yard, per pound? Like, how does this, you may approach, Director.
I don't know what's in your pricing, but I can tell you what is in the current, what the expectation is from the department, right? And so this is, the RFP was put out for 3 components, which is to remove the sargassum off of the beach, to bring it to a staging area, and then ultimately to the landfill. And by the way, Christina White, I'm the pros director.
I was about to say it for you, for the millions of viewers on TV.
Yes, so those are the 3 components of the requirements of the department.
But the billing, and you may have said it because I was concentrated on the fact that you didn't say
That
your
I never said my name, yeah.
But for the billing purposes, obviously we're seeing a total proposed number.
Yes.
But does that vary, forget change orders, does that number vary just based on the amount of sargassum?
No, it is a fixed amount that is, regardless if it's a small amount of sargassum on the beach or a large amount, it's
Wow,
regardless.
really? So companies are willing to
fixed
take that
number.
risk?
But I do want to make sure that something is clear here. There could be, if it's not done properly, okay, there are additional costs that can occur. The current vendor, which we've been using for 6 years, who has the experience, who has the equipment, who has staff that's been trained in this, and is a leader in the field, has equipment to do it properly. If it's done improperly, it can cause additional costs associated with it because, one, if you pick up additional sand that you shouldn't be, you should be sifting all of that out when you're removing the sargassum from the beach. That is going to cause beach renourishment costs, which the city of Bell Harbor is doing right now for $11 million, just that portion. Okay, so I don't want to get into a situation where it's done improperly and then this county is forced to spend a lot of money on beach renourishment, number 1. Number 2, in picking up the sand and bringing it to the landfill, it's all based on weight. So again, if you don't have the proper technology, the proper equipment, and the proper procedures for doing this, it'll be more of a tipping fee to drop it off at the landfill. So there can be hidden costs in changing in a vendor that doesn't do it properly.
But
The
those
one that we have now, it's an all-in cost.
Director, those tipping fees are at the expense of the company or the county?
The county.
In addition
So
to,
then that would be additional costs on us.
in addition to the proposal?
Yes.
The tipping fees are on us.
Yes.
So we're relying on any company to make
To
sure
do
that
it
they're
properly.
properly drying the sargassum and the weight is as little as possible.
Yes.
Okay.
And a much bigger cost and a much bigger environmental risk is removing sand from the beach and having that additional deterioration of our beaches. And we're going into high tourist season right now.
Right. So thank you, Director. Appreciate it. I think, here's what I think. I like what your motion is. I don't know if 30 days is enough, maybe 60 days, but I'm open to it. If the administration has not pushed back on 30 days, so I'm assuming that that 30 days is sufficient.
Obviously, it depends on, I'm sorry, if the vendor is willing to do it. I mean, we haven't, whether the current company wants to extend
Is
it.
somebody from Beach Raker here? Why haven't we called Beach Raker up before?
Thank you for your time today. My name is Chip Jones. I'm the president and owner of Beach Raker. Beach Raker is a 50-year beach cleaning company. We are the largest in the country. We operate out of 11 offices from Georgia to Key West. We have 22 municipalities that we do 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I brief around the world on sargassum management. I talk several times down in Key Biscayne to the commission down there on how to manage sewage management. I've also been part of the pilot program on repurposing through the Hinckley Center and the University of Miami on how to repurpose sargassum. We've spent over $1 million during our first term here in Miami on how to repurpose. We've got about 11 different tests that we've ran in conjunction with Miami-Dade County, the village of Key Biscayne, on how we manage sargassum. There are a lot of regulations. There are a lot of permitting that takes place with this. Everybody thinks that, we get this often, that, it could just be picked up and disposed of in this place or that place, or where it can go to, or which landfill it can be dropped at. It takes about 90 days to dry this. The drying process is intensive. The water capture that has to take place is intensive. Where that water is taken to, because it's contaminated with arsenic, is intensive. It's a partnership with Durham that takes place. And we've seen this, time and time again as we walk through the regulations. We do a lot of testing out in the Caribbean. We've done with the Army Corps of Engineers. We're also one of the only companies approved by FEMA and the Florida Department of Emergency Management. We did open all 6 municipalities that were affected by the 2 hurricanes last year on the West Coast. The beach, not the debris removal off the street or the things that are being talked about right now. The actual beach, and make sure the beach is safe for our beachgoers to go again. So with that, I'll take any questions.
I think-
we're actually already on our 3rd extension.
Yeah, that was my question, Chip. So I think this item, issue, topic will certainly spark much lengthier conversations when it comes back to us. I guess so. The question that and that was helpful, by the way. Even though it wasn't my question, it was helpful to understand what goes into it. So thank you for the elevator pitch of all your experience. I guess the question is, you're on your 3rd extension, but can the company you're only on your last extension per our contract.
Oh,
but
no, our contract was ended in April. So we're on our 3rd 90-day extension already.
Okay, are you willing to continue
Well,
extending?
we'll need to take a look at that, but there's been some, obviously we're on our 3rd extension already with the county.
Okay, so we don't know leaving today if you're willing to extend again or not. Okay, all right. Commissioner Regalado.
I have to go, but the only other thing that I would add, and thank you, Christina, for explaining it, is there are municipalities that offer this work. So if people want to go learn how to pick up sargassum, I would recommend going to a municipality that picks up less and seeing if you could do it there. And if this is not done properly, the other thing that happens is that we have to close our beaches. So that's another thing that happens, right? And in terms of the runoff with the arsenic, wherever it's dried, it can end up contaminated and they can close the site. And then you get backed up because you don't have a place. As much as I love research, I would like a proof of concept for people before they decided to do this work. This is very, very sensitive work, and it can end up costing us a small fortune. And the tipping fees can get very, very expensive. And again, I appreciate the research, but the state of Florida has a process, the municipalities have a process, we have a process. There's lots of opportunities out there to learn how to do this, and I wouldn't recommend that the board do it here. And if you do, I suggest you have a contract with Beach Raker, because if it's not picked up, right, we're gonna have a serious problem. And they really are the ones that do it and have been doing it, and there's a reason for that. It's a very specified area. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate you sticking behind for this. All right, so here's what I suggest, and I'll recognize Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, I think may have raised her hand again. But here's what I suggest, to my colleagues in this committee is, am I missing one? Oh, the vice chair. Is, look, Beach Raker you've been on your third extension or second extension. It's a 30-day additional extension if you're willing to do that. I took what Commissioner Regalado said very seriously, because we do have experience with going in a different direction and coming back to this board at a much higher cost afterwards. We don't want that to happen again. But that said, this was brought to us now, and I would like to dive into it further. I would agree with your amendment. I would have liked to seen it longer, but in the spirit of them wanting a final answer as well, 30 days, and the administration hasn't super pushed back on the 30 days. So let's do the 30-day extension with a baffle, but the baffle not just on pricing. The baffle has to be on qualification, and to Commissioner Gilbert's point. And not about the trucks. Like they've got the trucks. It's got to be that they can explain that the process is, that they know what to do. Namida. Okay, all right. Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, and then if the attorneys want to clarify something, they may.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the president and owner of Beach Raker. It might be in the item. I'm looking at it again. But why are we on our third extension? Why did the contract expire in April? I mean, maybe it's in there. I don't see it articulated. So let me actually start with that question first. I'll give you 1 second. If I'm actually going to direct the question to the administration or to the attorneys. Is it in the item that this contract originally expired in April and that it's on its third extension? Is that written in the item that's before us right now, item 3B?
Commissioner, the contracts have ability to be extended for 6 months, and that's what he's talking about. It's not third extension, but those were 6 months that are listed. The term is 5 years, 5 years and 6 months, the total. So that original term was 5 years. We extended it for 6 months to bring the item back here.
Yeah, but that's not consistent with what he said. He said that the contract expired in April and that this is the third.
From April to October, from April 30th, well, May 1st to October 3rd, that's 6 months. So we must have extended it in like short durations, 2 months, 2 months, 2 months, but total 6 months, basically.
Yeah.
That's built in.
And Namita, feel free to, because I'm pretty sure my team could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I held this item for a bit. I don't know that it was since April, but I've held it for a bit, and I have no problem saying that purposely, because I had questions with the numbers and it needed to go to, I just want to do a deeper dive. But even with me holding it, was it within the timeline of the ordinance that was passed by this board at some point that you have to come within 12 months prior or whatever? Was it your?
It says 60 days prior to the expiration that we have to be here, but I do know that the mayor, I believe, approved the award in June, and we had submitted to the agenda office either end of May or June sometime.
So not within the 60 days per se, but.
Yes, so we had to, the RFP process started a little bit late, which I agree, but we were able to complete the RFP process pretty expeditiously.
And you still have the floor, Commissioner. I just wanted to take responsibility that I did hold this item for a bit, just to do a deeper dive.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your candor, and my point is not to belabor, I bring this up often, but it's for a reason. As Commissioner Gilbert mentioned, we have the discretion and the authority to make decisions that are different than what the administration is recommending, but when we are pressed against a situation that we are on the cusp of a deadline of a contract where we have a contract holder saying, listen, I'm not sure that I'm even interested in an extension, our options become much more limited. Hence the reason I passed the item, trying to avoid this situation entirely. But that horse has been beaten entirely into death. To the contract holder, I'm interested in the impetus of the reason that we're having this discussion entirely. And so why, and I don't mean to put you on the spot in any way, but you're clearly well versed. Yes, I'm now addressing you. Thank you so much for your patience on that. You're clearly well versed in this area. I would argue that maybe you're an expert in it. And so my question is a rather simple one, and it's not in any way intended to place you on the spot. But a $3 million variance in difference between two contracts bidding for the same work, for this type of work, seems like quite a bit of a difference. So help me understand why your contract is $3 million more expensive.
Yes, ma'am. So if I can have about 90 seconds, I'll go with the last contract and what we have learned and how we bid into this contract, because I think that'll provide the full clarity, and I'll try to do it in about 90 seconds. There was a lot of unknown on how the sargassum was going to take place, as well as there was a requirement in the first contract, RFP, that was almost 7 years now, because there was an emergency portion with that, where there was a requirement to repurpose at least 10% of the sargassum for other purposes. At that point, all of that equipment, so loaders, excavators, property, screeners had to be purchased. So there was a massive purchase of equipment that went along with that. Those fixed costs have already been taken care of. We own that equipment now, so we were able to reduce. In addition to that, the requirement to repurpose was also removed, so we were able to withdraw that. But with the contract the way it was, actually $5 million more, I think I'd just over $20 million for the first 5 years we had. In 2022 and 2025, we actually were at a break-even pace. And what our competitors don't understand is the cost that's involved behind this that takes place with processing sargassum. The second movement of the trucks. We had 131 trucks out of Ball Harbor in 1 week in August. Just 1 week, 131 22-ton trucks out of there in 1 week. And that's a cost that we don't know if it's going to be every week, 8 weeks. And in order to be able to basically maintain that across 22 municipalities, you have to be able to make sure 24 was a great year, 25 is a terrible year. But if we remember in 2018, when CNN and Fox and everybody was standing on our beach talking about how bad Miami Beach was, Miami called Beach Raker the biggest in the United States, which I would argue is probably the biggest in the world. We haven't had them back on our beach since.
Thank you for that answer. And to SFM, we did, again, a similar discussion at our last hearing regarding change orders. And I'm familiar, because we went through this with the attorneys, that we're not allowed to bind you and say, don't bring us change orders. We can't do that legally. But considering the conversation that you've heard today and thus far, you still stand behind your position that you're ready, willing, and able to do the work at the price that you were bid, and you understand that the directive from this board, it's not a directive because it can't technically be a directive, but that this board doesn't want to see change orders, because then, yes, we're going to promote opportunities for new businesses, but not at the expense of the residents and the taxpayers of Miami-Dade County. So you're still good. Nothing has changed after the discussion that has taken place. You're still standing by your bid number.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And one last question for the director, Director White, or the administration could chime in if they have the answer, is regardless whether it's the incumbent or a new company, how do we monitor these contracts? Meaning, we now, because of the last, 20 years or 5 years, or if we want to go in the last 24 months, we know what the tipping costs, fees should be. I imagine per weight. I imagine the truck pulls in and it gets weighed. Is that safe to say that's how it is, or?
It's a little more complex than that, but it is based on weight, yes.
But there's a measure to it, is what I'm saying is.
Yes, but it's constantly fluctuating, if that's where you're going.
I'm kind of going there, but not necessarily. Well, we know what the average is year after year. Certainly, Beach Raker knows. He just said it. He said we broke even last year. And for him to know his numbers, he's got to know what he dumped. and therefore we should know what he dumped.
Yeah, yes, if that's your question, yes, we do know that.
So if,
that our-
whether it be Beach Raker, the incumbent, or a new company comes in, and we now see those tipping fees rocket, who monitor, like, is that a log? How can we add that to the item? That it has to come back to the board every 3 months, regardless of the company we go with, to see these reports that it's, because we want to verify that any company is actually properly drying it, doing the process that Mr. Chip just described, and they're not cutting corners. So how do we, I know perfection is, what's that say? Perfection is the enemy of,
Don't let good be the enemy, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
yeah. So, well, I was completely off, but my head was in the right place. But do we monitor this? How do we gauge this?
I think I want to answer
measure
your
it?
question in a couple different ways. First of all, I'm here to tell you that the people who live along the beach are very passionate about this, okay? When the sargassum builds up for a second, we're all getting calls about it, right? So that's one of the reasons why somebody who has experience and has the ability to do this well is going to be very important, not just from the cost perspective, but from the, community service aspect of it all. And so what we do, we know that the amount that is removed, if that's your question, yes, the tons are getting monitored. Beach Raker every day takes photographs of the beach, up and down the beach, to prove that they have removed this sargassum from the beach. And that gets posted onto our website every single day so that we can show the public that we do have a contract, we do have somebody there picking it up, because when the tides come in, it comes back up, right? We have to prove this to the community. So that is one of our measures, that they are there every day and that they are going above and beyond to do their job. Yes, we're weighing it. Yes, we know how much it is going to the landfill. Can we provide reports to you on how that's going? Yes. The answer to that is, I suppose, is yes, if that's what you're asking for.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Orbis, do you want to clarify your motion or amendment, or re-clarify it?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think we should extend to 90 if possible, because we don't know if the administration can come back.
I brought it up.
But bring the BAFO back within 30 days. Yes, to the attorney, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Clarify the motion, because I know there's a lot of discussion. So what I have in my notes is, so the current item recommends award to Beach Raker LLC. Instead of that, the motion is to direct the county mayor's designee to solicit best and final offers from the 2 highest-ranked proposers, and to present a recommendation to this board as to whether the county should enter into a contract with the lowest price proposer within 30 days. Subject to the current vendor's agreement is to negotiate and direct the mayor to extend the current contract for 90 days, so there's no interruption of the service. That's what I have here. So BAFO to bring back that recommendation in 30 days and extend the current contract subject to the current vendor's agreement for 90 days.
I second her motion.
It's been moved, it's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay. All right, show the item passed. Thank you. Thank you, guys, both.
Mr. Chairman, that was price only on the BAFO. It was our understanding. Is that correct?
Is that not what a BAFO is, just a price?
Typically, yes.
Oh, all right. Motion to adjourn?
to focus on the needs of our community.
We recognize the privilege of serving the great people of Miami-Dade County and the trust that they have placed in us.
The decisions we make here will have a long-lasting impact.
And we are fully aware of the responsibility that we carry.
That's why we are dedicated and committed to working together for a brighter and prosperous Miami-Dade County
for our residents and future generations.